as and a seriously focused investigative journalist, and who actually took possession of Hunter Biden's laptop, about which nothing, to my knowledge, has been done. I refer to, of course, Mr. Jack Maxey. Jack, how you doing? Welcome back.
John, I'm doing great, man, and thank you for having me on your show. It takes a lot of bravery to put it out on the menu for the American people, the truth, and I very much appreciate it.
Jack, I'm not sure I ever asked you this question, but what got you involved in investigative journalism in the first place? I mean, just to give us just a quick one for people who are new to the program, you know.
Well, you know, this is an interesting story. I owned a bar and a ice cream store in San Juan, Puerto Rico in 2017.
Best of both worlds.
I was kind of looking to hit the glide path of life. The Hurricane Maria came around. I will say to all Americans that one of the greatest experiences was riding through that with the Puerto Rican people. No looting, no nothing, man. Everybody fell in a beautiful way. But my life was wiped out like a lot of other people's. And I came back to Washington, D.C. to be a godfather for a kid, and I was there for a brief time in early October 2017, and then I went back to Puerto Rico to clean up, and a dear friend of mine in D.C. was dying of cancer named Faith Whittlesey, who anybody who's a diplomatic kind of wonk or someone who understands a lot about U.S. intelligence in the 80s was a really great American, and she was dying of cancer. So she was a friend of mine, and her secretary called me up and said, hey, you know, Faith's not going to make it. She's asking for you. Can you come up? And I did. I ended up staying for she didn't last 5 days. She lasted like 6 weeks, which is a beautiful thing. And as a result of staying with her while she was, going on to our maker, I met lots of people. And at the time I met Steve Bannon, who was calling by Kiss or Ring, along with a lot of other people.
Right.
And I started working for Steve in the early 2018, ran an influence operation for the GOP. Later, ended up working for Steve. But not my plan in life, just sort of an intellectual who found himself in a situation where someone had to do their duty, and I guess God put all this in my lap. And I'm not afraid, just like you're not afraid, John. And that's why I have so much respect for you and your audience and what you do.
I appreciate your saying that. Well, right back at you. Let's hit some points. Let's just go nonstop, a regular, what do you call it, a lightning round. I've got a note here. It says General Flynn. Which General Flynn? Over to you.
Well, that's a great question. If anybody watched the testimony from an incredibly brave, honorable American Army captain in Congress last week, who was on standby to provide extra security for January 6th, his contact in the Pentagon was General Flynn's brother. And he's speaking to him on the phone, and he said, I was told to stand down. And what really freaked him out was that General Flynn, the one we know, the former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, was also on the phone. Now, we have to remember, I'm pretty sure General Flynn spoke on January 6th as well. This guy is completely a controlled figure. I would say without any fear of him suing me for defamation, that this guy is a fraud. I called him from Switzerland in March of 22 with information that Hunter had access to the Department of Defense computer system as an administrator on his computer. There were tales of this. Did nothing. 2 weeks later, he's slamming me, saying I'm a bad guy. Same with his other brother, the non-general. Why is Flynn in the middle of all this? You can see that he's jockeying for the presidency right now, or at least the vice presidency. I would counsel Donald Trump or any other nominee. That would be a giant mistake.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you're talking about this Captain Timothy Nick. Now, he named Charles Flynn, I do believe. Yeah.
Yes, but he claimed that General Flynn was also on the phone. Why would he be on the phone? Why would he be...
But Charles Flynn is a general, right?
No, but his brother, Michael Flynn, was also on the phone, apparently. So why would he make that claim? This is not just about Charles. This was about retired General Michael. Why would he be in the middle of a phone call like that? I can tell you, and I can tell the Congress and anybody else who cares, or any of the fellows who don't really take their oaths as seriously as those of us who were handed a Polaroid in the 80s. General Flynn was on the phone, for example, in the White House. Let me straighten you up
on something here. Hang on now.
Sure.
CNN is even carrying this. From January 22nd, 2021, the Army is now acknowledging that Lieutenant General Charles Flynn, the brother of President Donald Trump's former National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, was in the room for one of the key January 6th decisions.
Well, I saw the testimony, and maybe I heard it differently, but the young captain, the National Guardsman, said that he called the general that you were talking about, not Michael, the brother, who's on active duty now.
Right.
And he was on the phone with him. And he was shocked to also find out that he was on the phone with Michael Flynn. So I'd like to know why is it that, this is
gotcha.
Right? And then why is it that Michael Flynn was the guy who went into the White House with Patrick Byrne and admitted FBI informant? Just look up Patrick Byrne and the Maria Butina, the Russian girl who was put in jail. It's an FBI informant. And somehow General Flynn and Sidney Powell and Patrick Byrne show up at the White House in late December. They use the pass of Garrett Ziegler, the founder of Marco Polo. They come into the White House. They meet with Trump in the Oval Office. They have a pre-planned meeting with the media out on the corner of Pennsylvania Avenue. This means that Flynn and Byrne and Powell invited these people there. And they come out with the story of the Kraken and Dev Group in Dusseldorf and Delta Force in Milan. And the whole world rolled their eyes in the back of the head, and there was a collapse of any hope of any recount. Now, you will note that many of the attorneys and other people who were supposedly involved in the recount are all being prosecuted. General Flynn? No. Patrick Byrne? No. Sidney Powell? They made a show of it, but she just walked. You can always tell who's on the dark side by the consequences that they pay. This is not calculus. This is McGuffrey Reader second grade addition, subtraction, and division. And the American people need to know that all of these people were involved in trying to destroy Trump. Remember, General Flynn was the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency under Obama.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At the time, that through the Department of Defense, from CIA, with Fauci's blessings, they set up all the biolabs in Ukraine. Has General Flynn ever answered to that? No. The CIA bases in Ukraine that we now know about from the New York Times, no less, just 3 weeks ago. The American people have to know that we bleed, we die, and we suffer to cover up the lies of an unaccountable intelligence apparatus that records every keystroke, records every conversation, knows your every secret, and this pretense that we are living under a republic is an absolute farce. And to prove that, you can look at the vote on eliminating the Fourth Amendment of our Bill of Rights. And all Americans should remember, the Bill of Rights exists because the 13 colonies did not have faith that a federal government would not turn itself into George III. So they wanted to have all of our God-given natural rights defined in writing. That's in the Bill of Rights. The guarantee, right? The thing that made the agreement on all the other stuff acceptable. The United States Congress, the United States Senate just voted to eliminate your Fourth Amendment rights. Your right to not have your private papers, your personal effects searched without a warrant, signed by a judge with a witness. They just eliminated that. If that portion of the Bill of Rights can be voted away in the middle of the night, then what other portions? Your First Amendment rights, your Second Amendment rights, right? What's not available for the Leviathan's gaping mouth willing to chew up every one of your liberties?
Touch on the Ukraine aid and the biolabs and the CIA bases in the Ukraine.
Well, let's think about the CIA bases in Ukraine and the biolabs. I can tell the American people that the executives at Burisma know far more about our biolabs in Ukraine and our CIA bases than you do. In correspondence from early 2016, Hunter communicates with the executives. Yeah, it's a secret DOD thing. It's undercover of the Department of Agriculture. It's all going to be run by a company named Metabiota, which we find out is owned by CIA. It's all going to be managed by Black and Veatch. This is all in writing. I'm willing to say names because these are real things. It's in paper form.
Going to be managed by who?
Congress. Black and Veatch.
Okay, gotcha.
Sort of like the CIA's version of Halliburton, if you will.
Gotcha. And everybody in Congress, you were going to say?
Everybody in Congress has had this for a long time. It's not comfortable for me to know that I gave everything to the Senate Judiciary Committee on July 8th of 21. Done absolutely nothing. I mean, quite frankly, Matt Getz had this thing since, I don't know, early December of 2019 or 2020. But he didn't hand it into the Congress till 2022. And, you know, quite a brave act. But, hey, man, that's 2 years later, bro. This thing has been slow walked from the moment it started because all roads lead to Langley. They were running all of our bioweapons research after about 2005. They privatized it. This is what the biolabs in Ukraine were doing. The same scientists that were there were also in Wuhan. In actual fact, the scariest part is that we were in partnership with the Chinese, and the Bidens actually had a role in introducing Metabiota to the Chinese CDC through a fellow named George Gao, who is married to a woman named Xiaoying Zheng, spelled Zhang, who's a member of a very elite family in Shanghai. Xiaoying has been the greeter at the airport in Beijing for the Biden family for the last 30 years. U.S. intelligence knows this. There's correspondence on Hunter's laptop where Eric Schwerin, who is the licensee for the broker-dealer, the crooked broker-dealer, says, hey, Hunter, we've got to introduce Xiaoying's husband to Metabiota. Well, they do. Metabiota partners with the CDC of China inside the Wuhan lab to study coronaviruses. And they were also the company with the contract to run the biolabs in Ukraine. Put things together, people. There's a reason why we're at war in Ukraine. There's a reason why there's a consensus on planet Earth that the virus came from Wuhan, but nobody's willing to point the finger at the Chinese. You know why? The Chinese will turn around. We did this in partnership because it was illegal to do this research in the United States. Anthony Fauci was the man not only choosing the science that was going to be studied, but the scientists who were blessed with the opportunity to be the Mengelas of the 21st century. This is terrifying. And the American people have to confront that much of the evil that we suffer on planet Earth comes from unaccountable demons in U.S. intelligence and their partners in Five Eyes. That would be Canada, Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, to a lesser extent, the people in the BND in Germany. This is a giant lie factory that does not benefit the people of the West. And the collapse of Ukraine will make this very apparent to people because the finger pointing will start. Who actually blew up Nord Stream? Why did everyone tell us we were going to win? Right? So Macron's not going to take responsibility. Rishi Sunak's not going to take responsibility. Schultz is not going to take responsibility. They're going to say the director of the CIA and the head of the State Department and Joe Biden, Blinken, all told us. Right? It's human nature. So I would say to people, be patient. All's going to be revealed. And you're watching the panic right now. If NATO is so strong, why would they have to advertise how strong NATO is and PSA is all over America? They wouldn't. We would accept it as fact. It's all falling apart. We should all pray harder. And we should actually, I believe, every American, every person who understands liberty on planet Earth should literally pray for the people inside these intelligence agencies who are suffering with the burden of their sins, because it will be revealed. And first to, the altar is going to be the only heroes in this. That's simple.
It's strong.